Yes, it's me again, and I'm recording my video for February the 20th, 2019, video number 3002. Oh, and the title is Hard Drive Crashed, but it still works. Yes, my computer was in the repair shop to be repaired. Instead of reinstalling Windows, I asked them to install Linux Mint as an alternative operating system. They returned the computer and told me the hard drive was bad and needed to be replaced. When I got home and hooked it back up, it worked the same as it did before. I had already shut off the Windows updates. Of course, that produced a warning, which I will ignore. I have read that their critical updates were actually installing portions of Windows 10 onto my Windows 7 computer, but just the newest computer, not the older one that is not linked. Strange. Makes me wonder. As I've said before, my preferred browser, Opera, still works on the older unit, just not the newer one. I'm collecting more data so that I can decide what course of action to take from here. Meanwhile, I wonder about the currency revaluation, RV, that has been imminent for a long time. What is the truth? To me, it's what actually happens, though some say it's all an illusion. Yes, my computer was in the shop for about 24 hours, give or take a little bit. And they did nothing. And in fact, there was a $35 service charge, which the technician was willing to scratch because he said all we did was analyze things on the computer. We didn't actually change anything. But he did tell me when I went into the shop, the hard drive was laying on top of the computer. It wasn't even in the unit. And he said, you're going to need to replace this. And I asked him credulously, is that going to mean that when I try to run that computer, it's not going to work anymore? And he says, no, it should still work, but you need to replace the hard drive. Well, I did bring it back home, and I was, a bit skeptical about what had just transpired at the repair shop. But when I got everything hooked up and all the wires put back in place, I don't run the laptop. I have wires everywhere. Everything is done by wire. I have a wired mouse, a wired camera, and it's got a thing that keeps it cool, a fan underneath it that keeps it cool, and things like that are all connected. There's a whole bunch of things going out of my USB ports, including USB port extenders, two of them that have 4 connections each, and they're all used, of course, for my printers and my scanner and other things that are connected to the computer. So I'm using my laptop actually as a desktop model, though it's not a desktop. My desktop model still sits in the storage room. It hasn't been hooked up since I lost my home. Anyway, I had purchased this newer computer when I was making my trip to Australia a few years back. It was, I specifically ordered a Windows 7 computer. And then and of course it was on public connections all the while I was in Australia. And when I got back, I had all sorts of issues with the computer. And it was suggested that I install Windows 10, and I didn't like the way Windows 10 worked. I mean, I just didn't like it. And after a short period of time, I put it back onto Windows 7. I uninstalled 10 and put 7 back because it was on a trial anyway. and I didn't allow the trial to even go a month. I think you had a month to decide whether you wanted to keep it or not, if I recall correctly. Anyway, it's been running Windows 7 all along, but one of the things that one of the technicians that I talked to, not the store that I took it to that returned the computer to me, but one of my friends who's a technician, told me that they've been gradually putting Windows 10 components into the Windows 7 and Windows 8 computers because they want Windows 10 is supposedly the quintessential program for spying on everybody and controlling data. They can even watch you when your computer's shut off, supposedly. Now, is that true? I don't know if it's true or not. Some have suggested it is. There's lots of things. And I, of course, don't trust the government. And there's been talk for years about this currency revaluation, as I've mentioned in quite a few videos. And when I purchased an alternative currency following my trip to Australia, I was told, you got to get it now because it's going to happen any day now. And it's been, what, June, it'll be 3 years since I made that purchase. So it's going on and on and on, and nothing really changes. Everything remains the same. Except now we have the enigma in the White House known as Donald Trump. And what's he going to do? I have friends that say he's really draining the swamp, but I see swamp creatures all around him in his cabinet positions, and I don't know that the military is what we say it is. They're still fighting, butting heads with Russia, which is insane to me. I like Putin, as I've said in other videos. I don't think he's perfect. I just think he's better than what we've had in the West. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the truth is. I thought I did for a long time in my life. I'm realizing that so much of what I've been taught, what we've all been taught, is mixed with a lot of BS. It's just simply a line of propaganda that our so-called leaders and media moguls and people that are the heads of religions and stuff like that have been feeding us for a long time. And that's the reason that humanity, the human race, is in such dire straits. Will anything actually change? Folks, I truly hope so. And I also truly thank you for listening and bearing with me. I don't know when I'm going to stop making my videos. It's a habit and it's a hard one to break. So have a great day and namaste.